Hello! You found your way to Blanket Statements, an Anxiety Blanket Records podcast where artists have a chance to interview each other. It's an opportunity for them to talk all things independent music and find connection in new places. This episode, Nicole, Omar, and Eric of the band Worthitpurchase talk with artist Emelia Austin about recording your own music, songwriting, touring the West Coast, their go-to karaoke songs. It's all in there. Here they are.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing well. Should we introduce ourselves first?
Yeah, let's do it.
Who are you?
My name is Emelia.
Hey, Emelia.
And make music.
What is your affiliation?
I'm in the Anxiety Blanket fraternity house.
Amazing. Who are you?
I'm Nicole. I'm in the band Worthitpurchase.
And you?
I'm Omar. I'm also in the band Worthitpurchase.
As am I. I'm Eric, and I am in the band Worthitpurchase. We're brought to you by Anxiety Blanket Records. We're just going to kick it off. Emelia, what's your karaoke song?
That's a loaded question. I have like a Spotify playlist, so there's many different songs that I go to depending on my mood. Recently, I've been singing Norman fucking Rockwell by Lana Del Rey.
Wow.
It's a good one. It's been my fave recently. Yeah.
Very cool.
Honestly, I'm going to have to right now, because it's the summertime, I'm going to say Sheryl Crow, Soak Up the Sun.
That's a
good
really
one.
good pick.
That's always a good one, yeah.
I did karaoke for the first time when I was in San Diego with my family not too long ago.
Like
and
recently?
Yeah, like we went to a karaoke bar and me and my sister did I Write Sins Not Tragedies by Panic at the Disco.
Nice.
And I knew all the words. I did not have to look at the screen. It was pretty incredible.
Wow.
I closed my eyes. I got really into it.
Karaoke kind of scares me. So I've only done it like once or twice. And I did it with my friend Maya and we sang Love Fool by the Cardigans. And I did not need the lyrics.
Okay, another note is like, it freaks me out when people are like really singing it out at karaoke. It intimidates me because
What?
I thought we were just having fun, you know? I didn't know it was a competition. I didn't know we were displaying our talents. I didn't know we were leaving it all on the stage.
Right.
You know, I thought that I was just having a good time.
Yeah, I feel like there's two different worlds of
There
karaoke
is,
goers. There's
yeah.
ones that go and it's just fun and games and that's it. And then there's the people that really show up in a serious way. And it kind of ends up being competitive. I lean on the competitive side, unfortunately. But I think I was going to like a karaoke night. Like when I first moved out to LA, I was going to a certain karaoke night that like a lot of musicians kind of in like the LA music scene were going to. So everyone was just really good. So it's kind of like the kind of thing you'd like show off a little bit, like, you know what you can give and like, but then it was also fun in games, but a little bit of like, you know,
I get that.
a little flex.
Yeah, I get that.
I have another question.
Okay.
I just got my first tattoo not too long ago, and I'm curious, what's your favorite tattoo that you have? So you're displaying a few of them.
Yeah,
currently.
I have a few. I mean, a favorite one, honestly, I think it's my first one that I got, which is on my ankle.
Let's go.
And it says, "Let's go."
Wow. I love it.
I have a question not related to tattoos. What is the first song you ever wrote?
Oh my God.
And how old were you? And what was it about? And what was it called?
I don't even know if I can answer that. It's a secret. No,
It's a secret.
It's no. I mean, I was writing music. I think I started writing music at like a young teenage age, but I can't even. I don't really remember the names of the songs, nor did I like really record them properly.
Yeah.
But I definitely had like maybe 4 or 5 songs as a young kid that I probably have lyrics written down somewhere.
Yeah.
There is one song actually on my SoundCloud from maybe like when I was in high school that I think I put on my SoundCloud just as like a voice memo, and I just never deleted it. It's definitely not the first song I wrote, but I think it's the first one that's like documented on the internet, and I'm actually forgetting the name right now, but if anyone's curious, you can go listen to it. It's a little embarrassing, but also very sincere and sweet. What about you guys?
I didn't write music with words for a really long time. I think the first music I made was with like a Yamaha Portasound keyboard and like Logic 9 in my room when I was like 14. I feel like I was just really into the idea of like architecting music on a computer when I was like young and trying to do that, and I like wasn't like, I think that what made me want to write songs was like going to shows and like seeing people like deliver like really like impactful songs, like just like with like one instrument. And then I think I saw that and I was kind of like intimidated, and I was like, wow, okay, I get to go like write a song. I feel like I was just like a really big fan of music. I grew up listening to a lot of music as a kid and wasn't interested with like a lot of other art forms, I guess. I don't know. I like the idea of just being able to kind of just do it yourself, like on a computer at your house or whatever, you know?
Yeah, well, it's cool like at a young age also realizing like how accessible music making like can be. Like, I think being a fan for so long, you're like, wow, it's this like mystical element that like is far reaching. And then you kind of realize like, oh, anyone can kind of write a song if you want to.
That's honestly something that really fascinates me, is like our like generation had like laptops, and every laptop would come with a software on it. And like, it felt like at the point when we were like teenagers, it felt like it was really accessible to kind of make whatever music you wanted to make. Whereas like if it was 10 years earlier, I mean, I guess there was like computers and DAWs and stuff, but it's like a little bit more archaic, and people were probably still using 4-track tape machines and stuff. So, I mean, when I first met Omar, he was so stoked that I had like a interface and like a microphone to record stuff. And like, that's what started our like friendship together. And we met when we were like maybe 13
oh, wow.
14.
So you guys have been
beginning
friends
of
for a
high
while.
school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, long time. And we recorded songs together, like a lot of instrumentals, but we also did write songs with words. And Omar definitely had songs with words when I knew him. I feel like Peachy was like maybe like one of like the first songs. We had a band called Transporting Planets in high school. And it was like me and Omar making like shoegaze type beats.
That's sick.
Omar would sing some songs. I would sing maybe like a few more songs. Then at some point we met Nicole. And we all at some random intersection on a SoundCloud. But the first song I wrote, I was probably like 10, and I was in like a rock band and called Uncalled For, and it was just like
That's really kind of cool. It's a good name.
Uncalled For, number 4, yeah. One smushed together.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it was just like this like really dumb punk song, because I was listening to like Green Day or whatever.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Nicole, do you want to talk about your early songwriting experiences?
Sure. Well, the first song I wrote is when I was like 13 or 14, and it was because I was fresh out of middle school, and my sister and then my best friend at the time and I they wanted to start like a band because this is when like Burger Records was really huge.
Sure, yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, it was kind of like, oh, like anyone can start a band and, play at the observatory in Orange County.
Yeah.
So it was kind of just like, oh yeah, let's start a band, but they never actually made any music. And I was kind of just playing guitar in my room and thinking.
You were like the only serious one?
I was kind of just wanting to actually make music. I think part of it was like, oh, we're going to be so cool and be in a band or something like that.
Right.
But I think I was also interested in the music making part of it. And so I'd just be locked up in my room all the time because this is when I had first started teaching myself guitar. And then I wrote this song about this guy that my friend liked and them and and because
I
I didn't have any personal like experience, so I just wrote about like her experience, I guess. It was just like a voice memo that I uploaded from my friend's mom's phone.
Classic.
And we recorded it in her closet, which was funny. That's cool. I still remember that. And then I uploaded it, and then Omar like heard it and was like, "Hey, what's up?" Because we had a mutual friend at the time. And so we kind of knew each other just online, I guess, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so he heard it because I had been listening to his music for a while and been a huge fan. And he was like, "Oh, I really like the song. We should record it together." Yeah, we met like on Tumblr at first.
Oh, so it is a Tumblr
event. Oh my God, it's a Tumblr thing. And then he would post on Tumblr his SoundCloud stuff. So then I followed him on SoundCloud, and yeah. It was a whole thing, and I didn't know anybody who was doing that at the time. I didn't know anybody who actually recorded their own music or anything personally, and it just felt so unattainable because I didn't have a laptop. I had a family computer, and it didn't have anything on it. It just had the internet. Well, it wasn't like it didn't have any DAWs on it or anything, and yeah, that was how I first started writing music, I guess, and kind of went from there.
That's cool. So it's like basically like you two were in a band separately, and then it kind of morphed into what is Worthitpurchase now.
It's like a strangely like a 10-year-old project somehow.
Oh wow!
In a way, if you think about it, it's also like 2 years old. Well, 3 years old, but it's also like 10 years old.
Like morphs into different things.
It's that quantum shit.
Yeah, it's interesting though because it seems like you guys. It's a very like collaborative project. Like it's multiple songwriting. Am I assuming that you, Nicole, and Omar, you guys are like the main songwriters?
When it comes to like words and melodies, I think, yeah. But Eric's been turning out a lot of really cool chord progressions and instrumentals lately.
Getting in the mix.
We've been writing too.
Yeah, like we have like, I think some of our favorite songs, like Sweater, was originally
I love Sweater.
An instrumental that Eric sent, and I was like, yo, let me put something on this.
Yeah, no, that is actually genuinely a song that I actually listen to a lot.
Oh,
it's very good. Like, I mean, obviously I love your record. Truth Telling is great. But Sweater's great. Like just the textures, the melodies of that whole song are just like, I don't know, just very like chilling in the best way possible. Yeah, not to like out myself, but I do really, really love that song. There's like one lyric you have that like always gets me. I feel like it's like the main chorus one, but it's like, I'm trying to like really remember. I've been thinking lately that if someone's bound to break me, you can. And it's like such a simple line, but it just like gets me. I don't know. I just like, I really resonate with it, and it's just really beautiful. And I remember when I first heard that, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be listening to this one a bit.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like I don't really need to explain that lyric. Honestly, I was going to talk about it, but it's just kind of, I feel like it's obvious it kind of just is what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I think that was the first time I started getting into just writing lyrics. I guess you could call it like stream of consciousness, but it wasn't like fully unedited or anything. Like I was filing through my thoughts and everything, but I think that was the first time I really was just kind of not thinking too much about what I was going to write and just writing what I was feeling and writing within an emotion rather than thinking, okay, what is a song going to be about or what am I going to reference? It was more just about laying everything out and then just figuring out what it means. I don't even know what that song means in the end still, but it's kind of just a feeling to me.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I feel like with all my songwriting, I never plan it anything out. Like I think the way I write is like improvising.
Yeah, exactly.
On the spot, and like I'll kind of piecemeal together like the ideas of what the song is and like the feelings that are coming up. But I feel like I don't really fully understand the the full theme of a song until it's like done, and you just have to kind of,
Right.
you know, act on your instincts and kind of indulge into the feelings that are coming up. But yeah, I think it's kind of more fun in that way to write in an unplanned way instead of being like,
Yeah.
I'm going to sit down and write this kind of song in this kind of way, even though people are really good at doing that. And I think that's
Definitely.
it's a whole different like skill set that I totally admire.
Yeah.
But there's kind of fun in like tapping the like unknown part of yourself.
Yeah. And yeah, it's funny because sometimes, I mean, I think that's a genuinely good question to ask artists, is what their songwriting process looks like and what did they mean by this and that. Because sometimes it does have a fun story behind it, but I feel like for a lot of that record, it was very improvisational. It was not, I didn't sit down and think like, okay, this is what I'm going to write about, or this is what this or that means, or anything. I was just writing as it came to me. And yeah, I just feel like that was a new sort of area that I was exploring in songwriting, because I feel like with Dizzy Age, our first record, and with all of the, stuff that we released in high school and whatnot, I was still even trying to figure out how to write a song at that point. And, I mean, yeah. And yeah, it was just kind of, I was still trying to figure out how to write music still. I mean, I'm not like nobody's a perfect musician or knows exactly how to do what they have in mind in their head all the time. So yeah.
A question that comes to mind is, as we're talking about the songwriting process, how do we collaborate with other people? I know you have your own solo music, but also the music with Gal Pal.
Mm-hmm.
How does collaboration work in the studio environment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's like, the foundation of all my projects. I mean, especially Gal Pal, because that's a project that has multiple songwriters, so we're always collaborating, always adding to each other's songs and whatnot. But with the solo project, and especially this last record I worked on, I mean, it's built around the collaborators I worked with. It wouldn't be what it is without them. Yeah, so I mean, all the songs are like, I wrote out the songs and the structure of everything, but like, I worked with producers and like, instrumentalists that added like so much to the songs. Like Ellington Pete was my last producer on the record, and From Another Sky was kind of a collaboration between the two of us. So much of that record is like the both of us, his instrumentalists and like producing, and my songwriting. So it's, I mean, yeah, I love collaborators. It's like, the heart of kind of everything I do.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of solo artists these days are working with just so many different people. And I guess, I don't know, maybe that's always been the case in music. It's just not been perceived as much as I'm perceiving it now. But yeah, I find it so fascinating when a record has like a bunch of different producers and you can hear all they're imposing their sound onto people's songs. But so maybe just to clarify, your solo music, that's like you decided to make the solo record versus like bringing these songs to Gal Pal because they just like felt like inherently yours. Was there anything like different about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the styles of the two projects are pretty different. Like Gal Pal, we kind of, we're kind of like noisier and experiment in different ways that I think I don't naturally write in the ways that Gal Pal kind of has like it's just not the same style. My solo music is a little bit more like traditional songwriting, and I kind of wanted to pursue that because I'd never really pursued that as like a real project before. So like my solo work was almost like an attempt at like making like normal music. I was like, let's try this out and like see what happens. But also like I had been writing by myself for years and never really had the courage to actually record music. And so a few years ago, I just like, I think it was like kind of during the pandemic, like decided to kind of just like pick up the project because I was like, well, I have no choice. Like I have nothing to lose, you know, like, and I got a lot of time. So decided to pursue it in a more serious way. But sorry, I'm like forgetting your question. I'm like lost.
Amazing. No, that
lost my
answers
train of
it.
thought. But
like how you would like approach like the solo writing process differently than with your band.
Oh yeah, I mean, essentially with solo stuff, it's like once I finish, I mean, I wouldn't call myself an instrumentalist. I think my strongest suit of writing is structures of songs and like melodies. Like I'm really a vocalist at heart. Like that's kind of my strong point. And so I'll write out kind of the bigger structure of a song with like chords and certain progressions and lyrics and melodies and everything. And then I kind of like going to a producer, like a friend, to help me kind of like flesh it out a bit. And I'll kind of like co-produce with them and like add ideas. But I definitely rely on, just like other people to kind of help me understand the song in a bigger way. And that's how I like to work. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's not really, it is a solo project, but it's also really not too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do you record it all on your own? Do you record your own music?
I don't record it myself. Like I record demos and stuff, but I'm not really savvy in that kind of way. Like I do have an interface at home that I use. But I'm not really on the engineer side. But with my last record, we recorded it at Ellington's house, which was like a home studio. And that was like super intimate, really fun, like very easygoing. So in that kind of way, like, yes, it just wasn't like my bedroom studio.
Right.
What about you guys?
We all record and engineer and produce music. So that's kind of inherent in our process. Omar and Nicole, as we talked about earlier, are the primary songwriters, and we'll exchange ideas. And caveat, Nicole lives in San Francisco right now. Omar and I live in LA. And so a lot of times we kind of just like want to wait to work on music together. We don't, like Omar and I like don't frequently work on Worthitpurchase songs on our own, even though we like live together and we have a studio in our backyard. We always just want to wait till Nicole gets into town so that we feel like the whole band is like at least there in the room and we're working on each other's songs. And we'll oftentimes like get ideas started on our own. Omar might write a song, or I might come up with a chord progression, or Omar or Nicole will write a song, and then that gets sent to a group chat, and it's like, hey, like, what do we think of the song? It's like, then we kind of like be like, oh, like, really like this, the chorus is cool here, maybe we could do something like this here. But we never really hit the studio until we're all sitting in the same room together. And in that way, we're kind of just like all about executing as fast as possible. There's like this like kind of like slow simmering preparation portion, and then it just ends up being this very fast execution. We all play multiple instruments and can sit behind the computer and run Pro Tools or Ableton, and it's just like swapping out, and we'll get other people involved. We're playing at Justin Kohlberg's house tonight. He's played on a couple of our new songs. Our good friend Chloe Corley has produced on a bunch of the new record. We're always trying to get like some other people involved as well, and in a way it's like feeling more and more like a collective or something interesting like that. But which is why, furthermore, in like our live context, every single show we play is kind of just a different arrangement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say, we were talking yesterday about how we're a band, but we're also not really a band because we don't really have any roles like that. Like, I just feel like we bring so many different people in, like everyone's in the band, everyone does everything.
Well, it's like Worthitpurchase is like a project almost.
Yeah,
like it's not like you guys have assigned
kind of like,
roles.
Exactly. It's like it started off as a recording project, and we never just really thought of it in a band context. And so it's always interesting when we have to think of it in a band context. And I also think another part of collaborating is a lot of it. I mean, we just don't have any sense of ownership over our songs, and I think we're all really excited to see what we can all think of and do with each of our songs. Like when I bring a song in, I kind of give a general idea of what I was thinking for it, but I'm also so open and excited to hear what Omar and Eric are thinking. And if it's an opposing idea, I'm usually extremely open to just letting them take the reins on everything. I think that's been really helpful too, especially from working on music together for so long, is where we just don't, we're able to just constructively criticize each other in a very productive way. And I just think that we don't take anything to heart. Like we're just very open and communicative if like a song isn't good enough, or if a song kind of sucks or something. Not sucks, but like if a song is just kind of like, oh, those lyrics, or I don't know about those lyrics, or it's not hitting.
Sometimes you write songs that just suck. And you just gotta, and that's okay.
I've done that.
Yeah.
A lot.
Everyone has.
But yeah, it's just, and it's not personal, and we know it's not personal, and we know we're just having fun and making music.
Do you guys ever, I guess, get to a point where like one person has a very strong opinion about something and the other person, because obviously in Gal Pal, not my solo project, but in Gal Pal, I write with 2 other people too, which is like, I feel like there's often like teams that can form. It's like 2 people think one way and one person thinks one way, or like, it can kind of shift around and people can feel really strongly about their opinions. Are there times where, like, how do you guys kind of resolve those issues if they come up? If like, are you guys pretty good at kind of just like letting each other do what you want to do, or I don't know, in those moments of, I guess, disagreement?
You just got to give it time, to see kind of like what like makes it through, like what idea kind of like survives. I feel like sometimes it's really easy for me to be like, this is like what's happening, or like we have to like do this or that. And it's like, no, you don't. You just like wait, and you'll kind of like emerge like what you're supposed to do, maybe,
I feel like in a way, since I'm not a songwriter necessarily, I'm like a middleman.
You're the tiebreaker.
I'm a mediator. I bring these energies together.
Right. So they're trying to sway you for the vote.
You bring peace and balance into the world.
I bring peace and balance into the world.
Are you a Libra?
No, I'm not.
What's your sign?
I'm a Libra rising though.
Oh, boom. There you go.
I'm a Pisces though.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not one to like die on any hill in the creative process. I think sometimes in a way, like I feel like I could be opinionless. I feel like I want to change that. I feel like I want to be like more perfectionist and like having like strong opinions and sensibilities, but also like anything that I'm working on, like there's just so many people in the room and so many people with their hands on it. And I know that if I had a really good idea, I wouldn't want anybody to step on my toes. And if you're like really dedicated to making that idea come to life, I'm not gonna step on your toes.
You're not gonna trample someone's dreams.
100%.
Yeah, that's very kind of you.
There's also times though where it's funny. Like I remember the last time we were recording, and there were these drums that Omar had recorded with a friend in the studio one night, in a separate studio, and he was freaking out about if the drums were right or not. And I had never heard the song. I'd only heard the song either just as a demo with just guitar and vocals, or with those drums. And Omar was like, I don't know if these are right, and he was kind of freaking out. Like, wait, do we have to re-record drums? Like, should we redo them? And I was just like, I don't know, like I like them. And then Eric was like, I think they're fine. And then Omar was just kind of like making himself go crazy. But there's also
I was being told that the drums needed to sound more like Weezer from half the band. I feel like it was just like the song could go in like 2 directions, and the crew was kind of split. Like, should this be like a kind of drier song, or should it be like a little more kind of like live? And like loose, Yeah. And I feel like when you're kind of like self-recording things and like multi-tracking, you're not live tracking like the thing you just recorded like is going to determine like what you do next. And sometimes that's kind of what I meant by earlier when I said I was really just like into the idea of like architecting songs on a computer as a kid. I feel like you're just like kind of going through a maze and there's like one direction and you're just like going through. And sometimes I feel like the first time I start a song is just like a demo for me, because I don't like demo in the traditional sense. I'll just kind of write and perform songs until I feel like they're like written strongly enough. And then when I go to record it, sometimes like I'll put down a pass of something or whatnot, and that'll inform the next thing. And it's like, maybe like the drums were like not the vibe, and then I'll just like start the tune over. And I don't know, it's kind of like everything hinges on itself to me a lot. Like I don't like hacking up songs. I'd rather just start it over. Or I feel like some of that comes from like working on tape and making our first 2 records on tape, and working like late night where you only have like 4 or 5 hours to work, and like you have to reset the console, so you just have to do it all there. And I just feel like some of that creeps in. So sometimes I'm just like, I'm listening back to something, and if it's not working, I'm just like, let's just like do something else, or let's just like start over.
Right.
You know, it's because you just start to become, it's like easy to kind of like get like worn out of your own songs. And that's like the worst feeling to me.
Yeah. It's like not worth like kind of driving yourself crazy over something that like maybe is not really right.
Yeah. And I feel like that's with us all being engineers and working or having worked in studios. I feel like that informs a lot of our process too, because if something, what I would say to like a client is, if they keep going through takes, through like an hour, and keep re-recording takes, it's just like, okay, let's just move on to something else and then come back to this, because it's not working right now and you can't force it, or else you're just going to tire yourself out. So I feel like that's a lot of how the process goes for us too, is just trying, and especially since we have such short time to work together, since I live in San Francisco, it's kind of hard to all come together and record with enough time, seemingly. So I feel like we just have to be really strategic with how we spend our time in the studio.
I mean, that's kind of cool, like the urgency of recording stuff. It's like you guys really have to make decisions, and you maybe don't necessarily have time to sit on things. So with that urgency, you maybe lean towards like, your gut instincts, and maybe that often like forms something that wouldn't have happened if you had a lot of time to sit on something in the stew. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, the fast execution part is something that I really enjoy. Like, I think it just forces you to work on intuition, and I think that produces something that has a lot of like of your person in it. If it's like naturally coming out of you, it's gonna like sound like you. And that's something that I encourage for people whose records that I'm working on, or if I'm just like showing up to a session. I'm always like urging people to just like perform as themselves and nothing else. But like taking like one step backwards, I was just gonna say, like, since we like aren't a band, and but
you guys like are a band. You guys keep on saying that.
Like we've been on tour.
It's like funny.
I don't know what makes a band.
But I feel like there's a lot of bands that are kind of don't necessarily live in the same city, and then when they come together, they just make stuff.
Right.
It's just like separate.
I think even when we formed, when I was still living in San Francisco, though, it was like strictly a recording project, honestly. I don't know. I feel like we've like slowly evolved into a band because it's like exciting. But I think as a core, I feel like a lot of our favorite artists are not bands, actually. I feel like we might be kind of inspired by that a little bit. Like Boards and Aphex and some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Question of the day: what is a band?
Yeah, I actually didn't really, because I see you guys are like referencing it as like a band are people that play together live, essentially. But I would say that you're not one without the other, kind of.
Okay, another question: what are the goals of a band versus the goals of like a recording project or artist?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a lot of different. It could be a lot of different things.
Like if you if you perform live, you're playing with the band. Like if like I'm writing a song as Eric, and like I'm like an artist. I'm writing the song, I'm producing the music, and then I want to take it to the stage. I get a band. And
right.
the band is the group of people playing the music together.
Yeah.
And I think bands can collectively be artists, but bands don't necessarily constitute being an artist.
That's a good way to define it.
I think I just have this idea of what a band is. I think from what is left of the music scene in San Francisco feels very much so. There is the person who writes all the songs in the band, and then there are the other people who add their instruments that they play to that song.
Yeah, the players.
And they play live together, they rehearse. They don't really record that much, like just coming up, but they focus on playing a lot of shows. They focus on, their own respective parts, and it feels different dynamic at least. But I mean, a band can be anything at the same time.
The other day at rehearsal, I was like, yeah, like the last show we played with a drum kit, a bass player, keys, 2 guitars, like that felt like we called it like the band formation. We played as a 5-piece band, and we're trying something new tonight at our show, and it feels less like a band because we're doing drum machine, and we have like a table set up with like samples and synthesizers, and Omar and Nicole are playing guitar and singing. And I was thinking about it as we were rehearsing, and I was like, this isn't any less of a band than having a drum kit, but I think just the notion of being in a band, like you think of a drum kit, you think of like people with guitars and stuff. And I think you can have the energy of a band with electronic instruments or like studio influenced sonics. I think that's just like a different way to approach it. And I think what makes you a band is how you play together and how you interact together on stage.
Sure.
How it's performed.
Yeah, because there can be like different iterations of a project, right? Or like of bands where you have like different players that bring different elements to it. So it's like, yeah, like you were saying, like kind of a moment like stuck in time in a way.
Okay, so in my opinion, the strangest show we've ever played is Worthitpurchase, is when we were on tour. Actually, okay, one of the like straight up weirdest ones was when we were in Vancouver. Because we get there and they're like, we're on the way there or something, or it was the day before. Apparently we're not going to be playing the warehouse show that we thought we were playing. We're going to be playing in a park.
Classic.
Okay. And we can't bring any of our instruments or anything. Like we brought my sampler, my 404, but because we
didn't like a generator in a park. Okay.
And so it was just like, it ended up just instead being a free show in a park in somewhere in downtown Vancouver. It was just such a weird experience. There was just a bunch of random people there, a bunch of really, really, really drunk old people that were just like hanging out in the park. But then I think the weirdest show in a really good way is when we played Olympia on that same tour.
Stop. Okay, no, continue.
And what was the venue called? Do we know?
Lavoyer?
No.
Okay.
It was like a biker bar or something. Yeah, it was like a biker bar that we played at. And everyone was like waiting in line to go to this show at that place. And we're like, damn, we should have played there instead. But because some guy at like the coffee shop was like, oh, you're playing at that venue?
Oh my God.
That's a sketchy venue. Like people get hurt there.
You're like, okay, thanks. What do you want me to do about it?
Like, okay,
thanks for the advice.
We're playing like our music there. Like, I don't know. It's just so funny. Because we get there and they're playing like, all like Pearl Jam and like, all the hits. But then Eric was like, let's do Jaeger bombs. Because they had Jaeger on tap there.
Wow.
And the bartender was like, 3 Jaeger bombs. And then the guy who was sitting at the bar was like, who orders 3 Jaeger bombs at a biker bar? And then the guy was like, you know what, can I have one too? And then also order one for himself, which was funny. But it was just like, the bands ended up being pretty cool, but the audience was like all these really hardcore guys, but they were like, what do you call this music? I've never heard anything like this before. And they're so into it and they're so nice. They asked if we sold patches for their jackets. And I thought that was so funny. it was just like, I thought that we were going to get eaten up there, but they loved us. And they were so sweet and they were so nice. What about you? Do you play a weird show in Olympia?
Well, listen, my weird show is also in Olympia. It is also Olympia. I feel like is not to talk shit, but I feel like there's something kind of cursed about that place. I don't know. Maybe in the 90s it was fucking cool.
It's
right now,
crazy.
There's weird vibes. There's weird vibes there. That's all I can say. So
I love Olympia.
Yeah, it was
hate.
so much fun.
No hate, but I think playing there, like going on a DIY tour and playing in Olympia and not having like a bigger connection maybe to people in the college, it's just very odd. So my weird show there was with Gal Pal, and this was in 2018, so this was a long time ago. And we played there because we had a friend who we had known in college, and they were living there now. So we went there because they were able to hook us up with the show. So we played a show at Lavoyer. And just getting to Olympia was just weird in the first place because we were staying with a friend who's an ogle. Do you know what that is? No. So an ogle is people who ride trains for free. They train hop, and that's what they do for like with their life. And so Olympia's like ogle vibes. It's like they're like, I think we like stole salami and cheese and crackers from like some Whole Foods in the town, and we went to this person's house, and they literally did not have a plate, and we ended up eating it off of like a trash can lid. I swear to fucking God. And that was just like the beginning of the whole night. We get to Lavoyer like maybe around like 7 or 8, and there's like no one there, and we're just like, okay, this is kind of weird. Like maybe people eventually show up. We start drinking early. See, that's the thing. It's like you get to Olympia and you're like, this shit is weird. Like I need to start drinking immediately. You're like, I need to black out and forget this. But we just like start drinking early. They're like pouring pretty like heavy drinks.
They're generous.
Yeah. And Lavoyer is like the kind of place where there's like a bar in the front and then the venue in the back. We go to the venue, and like we're, trying to set up and like maybe sound check, and there's no sound person. There's literally no sound person there whatsoever, and they never show up the whole night. So we set up the show ourselves. There's only 2 people that pull up, our ogle friend, and like maybe some other ogle person that I don't even remember. And we play the show, and we're just fucking wasted. Like wasted. We sing a song that we hadn't even rehearsed in years. I fully fell off the stage. I fully fell off the stage at Lavoyer, and I don't even remember the rest. But that was my Olympia story.
You're like probably trying to crowd surf there, but there's just 2 people.
I was like so drunk, and I literally like lost my balance. It was one of those cursed shows where it's just like no one's there, so we're just like, let's just go crazy. Let's like be weird. And it was fun in that way, but definitely cursed.
Yeah, I'll say like Olympia has an unmatched vibe. Like I've never been anywhere like that with people like that, and they're really nice people and they're great, but it's so weird. Like it's so different, I guess. I feel like it's like those are like genuinely unique people, and they're not online. They're just like very much so in their own scene, and I think that's very admirable, but it's so interesting to go to. And I remember at the end of the night, like this girl was like, you guys got to come to the well and get some fresh water.
Drink from the well. They're trying to like get you in the circle.
I was very thirsty, so of course I drank from the well, and I was fine.
Oh, you guys went to the well.
It has a Google Maps.
Wait, what was it?
Location.
It was like a lake or like a...
No, it's like a spring, or it used to be a spring, but it's like a water source that's been going for like forever. It's like the Olympia artesian spring or well.
Oh, and people actually drink from it?
Yeah, you just put your like mouth under it.
That's kind of sketchy.
Yeah, you have to be initiated into, you have to like go under and like drink from it.
Go to Olympia and drink from the well.
Thanks to Worthitpurchase and Emelia Austin for joining us. You can find their music across all streaming platforms, and you can buy their records, tapes, and CDs at anxietyblanket.bandcamp.com. You can also find them on Instagram. Worthitpurchase is at Worthitpurchase, and Emelia Austin is at crybaby.bjorn. This has been Blanket Statements, an Anxiety Blanket Records podcast. It's produced by Jeremy Leisure, Bridie Hicks, and Garrett Labonte. You can follow the label across all social platforms and support their artists on Bandcamp and by seeing them live. Thanks for listening. See ya.